Hello, friends from the comic book world. My name is G,
And I'm Hector.
and we're here to look over the July 2023 collected edition new releases. Uh, Hector and I, we work for Penguin Random House, so the titles you'll see here are those that we can sell into that market. If you have any questions about sales rights and so forth, feel free to reach out to us directly, and we can definitely assist you with that. And the way that we do these, you aren't aware, although you should be, because you should be watching.
Yeah.
At least it would be very informative to you. So we'll start off with our personal picks, then we'll go into some highlights of titles that are going on sale in July, and then we'll leave you with the rest of the list so that you can browse through, you could pause through the video so you can like take your time with it if you highly recommend doing so. So you can see what else is coming out in July. So that's how it works. We'll go ahead and get started with our first pick.
Yep. And the first pick is my first pick, sorry, is Cold Iron, written by Andy Diggle, illustrated by Nick Rockenshire and Triona Farrell. And this is from Dark Horse. And this was a Comixology original. And this story, yeah, it's so Andy Diggle, if you don't know, he's a huge um, writer artist from the UK, and this story takes place in the island of Man, which if you don't know, it's this tiny island in sort of in between, England and Ireland, Scotland, like it's in between all of the UK in the English in that channel. And then so the story is of this artist, I forget her name right now, and she is sort of dreaming of bigger things. She lives in the Isle of Man, and there's nothing much to do there. But all of a sudden, one day, she hears somebody in need, a woman who needs help, and she helps her. And from what it looks like, it's like being attacked, and then she realizes afterwards that there's something sinister um, that is happening. And there's a lot of mythology combined with action, and there's Celtic Viking history sort of mixed in. Um, there's secret groups or certain cults also involved. It's a very cool story that I highly recommend reading, and it did really well with Comixology, and now it's coming to print on the first time. And I can't wait to see it on page because I think it's going to be even better to see it on the page. And that's it. That's my first pick. Next up.
Next up is my pick. It's Arca, and this one is part of the IDW Originals line, and I find the premise very interesting. It's about, well, to give you the premise, the planet is dying, and billionaires and the rich have the privilege and the ability to go on this luxury rocket to escape the planet and to go to a nearby planet that is way more habitable. So they're able to survive because they have the means to do so and the funds to do so. But they want to go in style. So the luxury rocket would need people to attend to their needs. And so they grab a bunch of teenagers with the appeal for these teenagers to service these billionaires is to give them prospects and hope that their future would change for the better if they were to take on this job. And basically, they're treated like slaves to service the needs of these billionaires. And that promise of a better future by taking on this role is, in fact, all a lie. And the main protagonist here knows that. And the rich will do anything if anything that they could, and this means killing, to hide that truth from being revealed because it is a benefit to them if they trap these teenagers into thinking that they have like a bright future, when really they're not going to give them anything. And so that's the premise of the story. Very intriguing. I'm very interested in reading this because it's such an interesting premise that I highly recommend picking it up for July.
Yeah, great. Next up, my next pick is Crashing by Matthew Klein and Morgan Beam is the illustrator. This is from IDW Publishing, also another title from IDW Originals. And this is actually, as you can see there on the screen, it says it's a cross between House and Gotham Central. Uh, and House meaning the TV show House. And in this story, the main character, which you see there on the bottom left, the blonde doctor looking at the pill bottle, her name is Rose, and she works at this big hospital in Boston. And uh, in this world, there's people with powers, and there's superheroes and supervillains, but they, the superheroes, the people with powers have done so much damage that really there's been a lot of loss to kind of try to limit them. And one of the things is that this hospital is particular, uh it has a policy against attending power patients. But Rose doesn't believe in that. She believes, as a doctor, she needs to be helpful to anybody who needs her help. She is a great doctor. She overworks herself, and like this is the big connection to House, the TV show. She takes pills. She's like she drugs herself to keep going, and she uh, comes to the position. She's put into a position at some point where she has to help and save the biggest superhero in the city, but also on the same day, but at night, she has to make decision to try to save the biggest villain. And the story takes you through that, through the whole um, sort of what would happen if superpowers were real, but also how society would react with the non-power ones, kind of being afraid and kind of trying to keep them at bay. But at the same time, as a doctor, what would you do if you had to save somebody who's supposed to be good and somebody who's supposed to be bad, but you're still a doctor? And that's something that it's being done in a lot of like medical dramas, but I think this is the first time I've ever seen it in the superhero genre, and it's very cool, very interesting. The very good writing. The art is also extremely beautiful, so I highly recommend this one.
All right, next up we have Clark and Lex. This is by the creative team of Brendan Reichs, illustrated by Jerry Gaylord. This one is Clark isn't this version of Clark isn't so perfect. Um, Basically, he doesn't really have any problems using his powers for his own gain and his own advantage. So like he doesn't care if he like uses a little bit of his super speed and super strength to make him to get an advantage when it comes to being a quarterback for the school football team. So like he like fudges it a little bit. He's like, why not? It's not a big deal. And Luth Corp in this story is holding a competition for the best and the brightest, and Clark, taking advantage of his abilities, uses his power to cheat through. Uh, Cheat his way through into the competition, into the program. But then he learns that he's not the only one with superhuman or super powered abilities. And that person is his friend, Lex. As you'll see here, they're shaking hands. They're buddy buddies in this one. The boys realize that the competition isn't all as it seems, as kids are going missing And so it's a question of whether or not Clark can put aside his pride to become a friend and a leader to overcome the Luth Corp's ambitions. And so this is the story that you'll see here. So pretty cool. This is one of my picks for the month of July.
Excellent. Very, very cool. And then if we can get to the next one, here we go. My next pick is Icon and Rocket season one. As uh various, but I can tell you it's Reginald Hudlin, Leon Chiles are the writers, and artist Doug Braithwaite. And this is a new reimagining of Icon and Rocket from the Milestone universe. I love the Milestone universe. I was lucky enough to collect some issues when it was started coming out in the 90s, and I really love all the stories, and I'm glad that DC decided to revive it and bring it back, and it's great. And so this collects this first season of Icon and Rocket. If you don't know the story, this is actually the biggest duo, the biggest team up in the Milestone universe. Um, Icon is the alien artist who was stranded on Earth, and he gave up on going back to this planet, but tragically he also looked at everything that was going on Earth, and said, they're hopeless. But then he met I forget the name of Rocket. But he met Raquel. He met Raquel, and she convinced him, and she found out that he was an alien, has powers, and convinced him to create this persona of Icon, and also uh turn her into his sidekick, Rocket. And then together they start, doing superhero things. And it's very cool because in this stories, they concentrate more on what's going on, uh, like taking care of people selling drugs in the corner and that kind of thing, but also Raquel sort of dealing with her identity between being a young woman, or I think she's going to like college and all that, versus um, being a superhero. So it's very cool. The art is also extremely beautiful, as you can see by the cover here. But the interior art is also very amazing, and it's very cool. And like I said, this is one of many more that are coming from this new Milestone universe revival. So looking forward to this one. And then, mhm.
All right, next up, I chose this one. This is Merry-Go-Round. Um, this okay, so
Okay,
in terms
okay.
of premise, let me get
Yeah.
this out there. It's a story that encapsulates the challenges, learning moments, and the daily lives of a group of young people, like simply trying to live their lives. It's about growing up and overcoming roadblocks, etc., etc. All cool. I'm like going through this as if it's like, but the main thing that like really sparked my interest in this one is that this is based on a play, a theatrical play, which I've actually never read a comic slash graphic novel adaptation from a play before. I think this is the first time that I've encountered something like this that I can think of in my head. I could be missing something, but that's pretty unique in itself. Like, I'm very curious about that. Not only that, it's based off of an Arthur Schnitzler play, which is a play that was like, I'm talking about like not taking a modern play and adapting it. This came out like way to the point where like I think Sigmund Freud like commented on it, or at least like talk to Arthur about it. Like, I'm thinking of, like, this is way in the past. So it's
Yeah.
really interesting to see how they have adapted it, to modern sensibilities, so that would be interesting to see how they do that. At the time, when we're talking about the original source material, at the time, it was considered, scandalous and controversial, originally a German play as well, and it was controversial mostly because of this very, like, prominent, like, sexual morality, discussions on, like, very, like, social roles and so forth. So it's very, like, again, scandalous in that way, so it has a very interesting history to the source material, and to see that being translated here is very cool to see. So, definitely highly recommend giving this, a go and taking a look at it. Really cool.
Yes.
Mhm.
Very, very cool. Okay, next up, we're gonna go and talk about highlighting some of the titles that are also coming out in July, but very quickly. So on this first slide, you're gonna see Archie and Friends' Endless Escapades, and then we have next to that we have four of the titles from the Batman One Bad Day series that came out throughout like the end of last year, beginning of this year in single issue. So we have by G. Willow Wilson, we have Batman One Bad Day Catwoman. Then we have Jerry Dugan did Mr. Freeze. John Ridley wrote about Penguin. And Mariko Tamaki wrote about Two-Face. And next up,
Continuing on, we have the Black Cat, Jed McKay Omnis. So we have the main cover as well as the direct market cover, which is pretty cool. Then we have Captain America, but I I know I'll try. Uh
let me know if you need
by
help.
Coates. Let me do Coates. Uh I can't talk
Sure.
today. Normally, I can pronounce his last name. So let me leave it at that. And we have the main cover, and then we have the direct market cover. Apologies there. And then we have Castle Full of Blackbirds. And this is by Mike Magnolia with Angela Slater. So yes.
Excellent. Next up, we have DC Mech by Kenny Porter. And we continue with Dear Rosie by Megan Boeman and Rachel Breiner. And then we continue with Doctor Strange by Donny Cates. And George R. R. Martin presents Wild Cards Now and Then. And one of my favorites, The Human Target. This is Volume 2 by Tom King.
All right, next up we have the John Ridley I Am Batman Volume 1, The Lost Fountains by Jose Antonio Cutrina. And then what's really cool, we have these Marvel Verse titles that are really good for younger audiences. So we have one for Marvel Verse Spider-Gwen Ghost Spider by Jason Latour. This is good to pick up, especially since we have like like the interest with the animated into the next Into the Spider-Verse animated film coming up in June. So obviously would a lot of kids and adults as well would be interested in these characters if they aren't already familiar. This is a good pickup. We have Mary Jane and Black Cat. This is the Dark Web, a part of the Dark Web. And this is by Jed McKay. We have also the Michael Golden's Marvel Stories Arts edition, which is very beautiful to behold. So, yeah.
Yes, very cool. We continue with Moon Girl and Devil Dinosaur Menace on Wheels by Jordan Ifueko. And then we have The Never Ending Party, written by Rachel Pollack and Joe Corallo. And Rise of the Teenage Ninja Mutant I can't talk either. The Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, The Complete Adventures, just in time for the new animated movie that's going to hit theaters, I believe, next month. And then we have the second fake death of Eddie Campbell and the fate of the artist by Eddie Campbell. Sorry, I forgot. I should have said that Matthew Canning and Sam Thomas are the creators of the Ninja Turtle one. And then the last one on this slide is Shaolin Cowboy, Cruel to be Kin, written and illustrated by Jeff Darrow.
All right, next up we have Social Fiction by Chantal Montlier. and this is translated from the original French, translated by Geoffrey Brock. We have Spy Superb, written and illustrated by the very famous Matt Kent.
Yeah.
And then continuing on, we have Star Trek Volume 1, Godshock, by a bunch of creators: Colin Kelly, Jackson Lazing, Ramon Rosanas, Oleg Chiduko. Sorry, Joe
Sure.
Eisma. I'm doing my best.
Yeah.
And then I stopped there. There's two more titles on this page.
You're still
As you
going.
can see,
You can do it. You
Charles
can do
Soule.
it.
This is the Star Wars Hidden Empire. And then we have Young Justice Targets by Greg Weisman.
Yes. And is this it or is there another one? I think there's another one. I'll try
We
it.
have it together today.
No, no, that's it. So
Yeah.
that's it for this week for the highlights. And like as we said, next up we're gonna do the uh we're gonna leave you with the rest of the list. I think this you were supposed to say this part, but don't worry.
Oh,
Don't worry about it. And so yeah, we're gonna leave you with the rest of the list for all the other graphic novel and collected editions that are coming out in July. Um, take your time. We hope you enjoyed it. And we thank you for joining us and feel free to comment. Definitely. So
yeah.
take care. Thank you. Bye.